But we read in Sight and Sound magazine that Stanley Kubrick was working on AI and didn't like any of the special effects that he was getting for a shot that he wanted to do underwater in New York. But after he saw Jurassic Park, his brain exploded, and that Steven Spielberg flew to London to like show him like a print of it. Is any of that true? I've been wondering that for 20 years.
Well, you could throw it in a big pot and stir it all up, and there is truth in that. Stanley was not making the movie. He thought about it. He had a artist who'd worked and done like 3,000 storyboards. Great guy. I think his name was Chris Brown. I think Chris maybe got his last name wrong or something. He was great. All this work on it. But he did see the movie, and he and Steven had talked a lot even before that. And Steven said, yeah, they're doing this dinosaur stuff. And so I got a call from Stanley, and I'd gotten a call from, oh, wow. I'd gotten call sometimes. Used to be working, and Stanley Kubrick's on the phone. And it wasn't just me. If I was busy, it would be Dave Barry, optical printer. Are you free to talk to Stanley Kubrick? And Dave goes, whoa. Yeah, seriously, those things did happen.
Wow.
Seriously. Because Stanley just needs his answer. It really does. To him, we're 8,000 miles away. He just needs his answer. So anyway, so Ned Gorman, who was my producer on a few shows, and I flew over for Thanksgiving with some shots that we had done for Jurassic. And one of the things Stanley really wanted to see was how we could communicate. How Steven in LA, and then he was in Krakow doing Schindler's List, showing us, we were showing him, and he was getting feedback from dailies, and we're like 8,000 miles apart. Stanley, of course, didn't want to come to the States, and I knew that. And I think he was wowing me to leave ILM and go there. But before I wasn't going to do that either. But I did go and show him the stuff. And he was getting all excited about it and thinking, well, I could do some stuff for AI that would look a lot better than I imagined. But I don't think he'd ever shot anything for the show at all. And we started doing a test, and then he lost interest or something, and then Eyes Wide Shut took over, and that was it. But it was exciting.
So wait a minute. So what you're telling me is that actually it was you who went over to show him the shots.
Sure, that was it.
Oh my God! But I've always heard since I was like a student at NYU that it was Spielberg put the movie in a can and got a private jet over to Stanley to show it to him.
I wish.
Reality,
I wish I was on that jet. No. I don't know if the movie had come out or not, but again, what Stanley was interested in was communication, and we had 3/4 inch tape. We tape recorded, videotaped the communications with Steven in Krakow, so we could play them back. And I had the same connection with Phil Tippett, 5 miles away across Berkeley. They got microwaves set up, live, because I didn't want to take the time for Phil to have to drive over here to help our animators. So you just, you got a problem, you just solve it. You think about it, you solve it. So they got satellites set up, who knows at what cost, to go to Krakow. So I brought the tape over, a couple of them, to show Stanley exactly how a half-hour review of 7 shots would go. And so he could see I set it up so that I could see Steven during Jurassic, his face, he could see our faces, because it's not just words. You got to get the subtext has got to be there, just like.
So you guys invented FaceTime back in those days.
It was something like, I don't know, but it was something like that. Because I remember saying and specifying it, we've got to see the faces in both directions. So that probably added who knows how much money, but how important was it to understand, is Steven really happy when he's smiling? Or is he just saying, that looks great, but he's got a neutral face, because I know the guy well enough to know it's real. And then vice versa, he can look at me and think, yeah, Dennis seems confident about this, and I can, whatever it is. So anyway, then I took it over to Stanley, and it was pretty funny. I said, I've got to have the tape back, the Betacam tape, because, Steven doesn't know about this, I said, I talk to Steven all the time. It'll be okay. Well, I got to have the tape back, and I reached for it. And Stanley had it in his hand, and he wouldn't let go. And this is the truth. Wouldn't let go. So I'm like this, pulling it, and he's pulling it back to him. I gotta have it because we recorded this as a record. No, so guess who won that?
He won that. I'm
Yeah,
assuming.
sure.
Yeah.
He certainly won that. Yeah.
Wow. First of all, that's an incredible story, and you've just completely changed my perception that I've had for decades. So thank you for that, because I always love having a new way of looking at things. But just one final thing on Stanley. What was he like? What was your overall impression of him? Like the times that you interacted with him?
He was very nice. He was a very nice guy. He invited us over. The only time we could get over there was on Thanksgiving, and he's of course American. So he had a Thanksgiving dinner for us, and his family was inside the main house. We were in a back workhouse, and I can't remember if he stayed with us or he may have. We literally flew over, rested for 4 or 5 hours, were driven to his house, had this dinner, and I remember when he answered the door or walked in or something, he was holding a clipboard with a pencil, and the clipboard was full of questions. And so it's me there, right? But it's just like on the phone. Anybody on the other end of that phone, he needs an answer. So he was going to get all the answers from me about effects, about how things have changed. I mean, he got a call from him on Eyes Wide Shut. No, it was on Full Metal Jacket. When Stanley Kubrick's on the phone, and he's got this Full Metal Jacket thing where they're going in a helicopter and they got a prisoner. And a couple of soldiers are up there, and they were going to, I think, push the prisoner out of the helicopter. So, and he's saying, "Well, how do I do this? How do I do it?" So I had a couple of ideas. I don't know if if it's in the film or not. I don't think
it's not.
I don't think it
not.
is.
Yeah.
And he was thinking blue screen. I said, "No, you can't have a blue screen shot in a Stanley Kubrick movie." I suggested building a big set outside, a miniature, but huge, that you can go along from traveling something like you're in a helicopter. And the guy drops out of the bottom of the frame, and then you can cut. But it's all real, right? Camera shaking, lighting's all right, everything. So anyway, but he didn't do that. So that he very, very curious, extremely curious. And then when we started, he wanted us to do a test for AI of New York underwater. I said, well, let's see if we can get a shot that you'd like, of flying over the ocean, and we'll have a couple of buildings sticking out of it. And I said, let's find if we could find like a oil rig in the North Atlantic and use that to lock the camera onto, or at least for tracking markers of what we should do. We could put the building there and everything. Yeah, great. He said, great. And they found some footage that the British Petroleum Company had shot for a commercial, the dailies of it. But we never got into it. As soon as we'd worked out a budget and we needed some money, then he changed his mind.
Right.
And we never actually did the test. We were all ready to, and then Eyes Wide Shut started, and that was kind of it.
Yeah.
But I found him to be very, very pleasant, very nice. But I could see where he's, just from what I've heard, he would stick to his guns, and he still is a New York guy, and he had an accent. He had the New York accent.
Yeah. They say that if you watch any of the Stanley Kubrick movies, and I heard this from Leon Vitali, that if you watch any of the Kubrick movies and you see Peter Sellers doing an American accent, he's doing an impression of Stanley Kubrick.
Right.
Did you work on AI with Spielberg?
Oh yeah. So yeah, I did the show.
How much of the Kubrick kind of direction did you guys try to incorporate in Spielberg's AI?
Stanley kept saying, "Steven, you should be doing this movie. I shouldn't be doing it." Steven, or what I heard was that Stanley couldn't figure out how to get the kid to look mysterious and built up in a machine and yet lovable and all that. He just couldn't figure. I had a lot of ideas, but none of them, he didn't go for any of them. We never did any tests or anything like that. And so he kept thinking the movie needs a lot of heart. And he didn't know if he could get heart, I guess, into a visual effect that he was thinking of at the time for the kid. So, it was always, as far as I know, given that probably Steven would have eventually done it anyway, even if Stanley hadn't died, because they talked about it on and off for a few years. But the movie's entirely different. I mean, you could tell the scenes are kind of the same, but the attitude's all different. The kid is, a nice guy, regular kid, all that sort of stuff. Looks a little funny, but you can imagine, I think if Stanley was doing it, I think it would have been pretty dark.